So as promised, I'm re-recording the UDK time attack tutorial with some improved audio. I'll try to get through this as quickly as possible, just going through the basics. It's not going to look pretty, but it should just give you enough detail to build your first game using some of the default assets in the game engine, and we'll just get to grips with some of the features in the tools. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is I'm going to minimize the content browser so we can just have a quick look at the windows here. You can see I can scroll in and out. This is sort of your side views and a top view here of this scene, the 3D scene there. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to delete these, as I don't want to use them in my game. So I click on that. So you'll see here, this is actually, there's two things going on here. There's this red box here, which is your paintbrush, and the box that's been added to the middle. That's a static mesh, or it's a mesh, that is. So you can see it selected there. If I delete that, it'll delete it in the game. The paintbrush itself, that wasn't a paintbrush, that was something else. The paintbrush is quite useful for, we can change its shape and use it for different things. If I, for example, add the CSG add tool there, you can see it's created a little box for me here, and there's the mesh for that box. So I can create different shapes from this and paint them into the game as an object. And I can actually go over to that object now and click the play button, and you can see this basically. So the game engine itself takes care of some of the physics and the actual you can see the three-dimensional world is all taken care of by the engine itself. So I'm going to get rid of them, and you'll notice as I do that. So I'll click on this one here and delete. It's very difficult to see, isn't it? Delete that one and delete that one, and yet they're still in the game engine there. They're still in my view, and if I actually press play, I think they're still there. Test that. Yep, they're still there, pretty much. I'm going to rebuild here, build geometry for visible levels. If I click that, that's when they start to disappear. And I could actually, you'll see that if I click on that, build that octagon there, is it? 1, 2, 3, 5. I'm not going to count them. And then move it over here. I can move it around. It still seems to be there. If I rebuild this, then it moves. So it's actually the way that you build geometry in the game. You can move it around here, but it won't actually really move until you rebuild the geometry for the visible level. These are just little things you'll pick up as we go along. So we're going to jump straight into it. I'm not going to go into too much detail about the ins and outs of the tools and everything else in the game engine, but I do want to sort of give you a quick demo of how quickly we can get a game built, or the basics of a game built. Right, so the first thing I need to do is probably look at landscape mode, because I'm going to need a terrain to sit on. I've left this box in, I'll talk about that in a minute, but if I drop down my component size here, I've got a couple of options here. Because I'm running on some lower spec machines, what I'm looking for is about 63 by 63, and that will give me 31 quads. So you'll see that what actually interprets into, if I create the landscape here, it gives me this 4x4 grid, or four-sided grid here, and it's actually this. If you look at the top view here, you can see all these vertices. If I change my lighting here, you can see that that grid there corresponds to all of these little triangles here. And then what we're going to do is with landscape view, we've got these extra tools here that come up in the toolbar. We'll look at this as we go along. And so the first thing I want to do is just teach you a little bit about this paint tool here. This is a good way of basically, what have I done? Nothing. Of changing the height map of my wireframe here. So if you look at that, you can see as I go around holding the control key, it just changes that. Although you see that nothing changes in the top view, it's everything is in its same plan view, but the height of each one of those triangles will be slightly different and stretched out. So for this game, what we're going to do is quickly just go around the edges. We're going to give the illusion that we're not on a flat surface with like edges. Not the end of the world. Let's go back into lit view and you'll see now that I can actually, if I just speed my mouse up a bit. So I've gone straight through it there. You can look underneath it, you can see it's only actually renders it on one side of the surface. It only renders the side that's visible. So if I go back up here, click the play button, and I should now, it becomes a physical object at my level, so I don't fall through it, and it kind of looks quite small. But I've got, you can see the sort of scale that we're looking at. They look like sort of reasonably sized mountains. I'm just going to give myself a little bit more room though, because it's I'm going to drive a car around here. It's not a great deal of space to do that in. If we had more time, we'd do a nice little level with lots of a larger landscape. So I'm picking the flattening tool here, and I'm going to take it from the center because the center is flat. I'm going to push out to the edges, and I'm going to just create more space around the inside of the map for my car and my track. And if we're happy with that, yeah, it doesn't have to be perfect. That'll do. It looks, you can't see off the edge of the world, which is what I'm trying to achieve. Press escape, let's get out of there. I can add some, I can do some stuff with it. I can, add some erosion, some hydraulic erosion, and some noise. That's quite nice. It's going to be quite useful for the flat surfaces. We don't really want really flat surfaces, do we? I don't know many flats in racetracks, but there you go. One thing we do need to be careful of is, see this this bit of this red line here is basically my it's like a kill line. If I go underneath that line, I explode, which is great if we need that sort of thing. But it's not too bad on mine. If I can just, if I want to, but just close landscape editor and select landscape, I can bring it up, and that way there's nothing sort of underneath it. At this point now, you'll see there's a couple of things actually sat underneath the map. I'm not going to worry about the light, the directional light. That'll be fine. Yeah, that'll be fine. It's just that joystick there. That's our player start. If I show you what that does, so that where I start is there in the map, right there. Click on this play button here. This actually opens the play button, the editor in another window, and it has opened on my other screen. Pull this over for you. So it's there. This is where it was. This is a joystick's position. This is where it spawned me in the game. If I press this one, it spawns me over here, all the way over here. Okay. So I've got some basic landscape. It looks okay. It'll do. Let's now look at how we create some textures for this, because obviously this is untextured. It's not very pretty. So back into landscape mode. Actually, no, we don't want to go into landscape mode. What we want to do is go into the content browser again. Open the content browser. Mine's minimized at the bottom over there on the other screen, and I'll just. What I'm going to do is what I'm going to show you here is basically this content browser will give you a list of all the assets that you can get. You can use for your games in UDK using their default assets. We can import stuff, so you can import your own. You could import your own terrain. You could import your own materials, different vehicles and things like that. Different meshes, different models. But what we're going to do is we're just going to stick with what we've got in UDK, because it's going to make this tutorial a little quicker. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to need to save my game, because I've got my UDK game folder here with all my UDK assets in, and I don't want to create a game with all of those assets because I'm not going to be using them. So I'm going to go File, Save As. I've got a little folder directly into my own folder, somewhere where you can find it. I've got a OneDrive folder out saved on there. This is Time Attack. Did I spell that right? Looks like it. Now, what I'm going to do now, let's go to lit mode again. I'm going to create my material. So yeah, it's created this external folder. As I saved that, it created this external folder here, which means I now have everything that's in here saved on my OneDrive. So anything I create add to this level needs to sort of exist in this folder, or it should. UDK should compile it to this folder. If you don't create your own external, you'll probably lose your textures later on, because your game will be externally referenced to the textures and the materials that you used for your map material. Before I do this, I'm just going to show you this. I mean, you can see this is transform. When I move this box here, this box is it does tell me here, look, a persistent level light mass volume, or light mass importance volume. Do I know what that means? I don't. I'm sure I will find out and I'll let you know, but this is I thought it was something to do with when you build your lights. What I mean by that is obviously light gets painted onto, sort of shadows get painted on and things like that in some scenes to save memory and things like that. So I thought it might be something to do with that. I'll have to look into it and find out. So what I've done now, you can see, look, is I'm clicking spacebar. As I'm clicking spacebar there, it moves from transform to rotate and to scaling mode. Okay, and then all I did was just change the scale of it. I could do that with my map. Should we do that? The only problem with doing it with your map, it will make your textures look blocky, but look at that. I'll have a more impressive, larger track for my car. So we're cutting some corners, but well, we're not cutting corners. We're making some allowances for the lowest sort of performing PCs. If you're doing this on a laptop or something, an old laptop. Right, anyway, let's go back to making the material. This is something we're going to have to do to paint this landscape to make it look like it's mountains, and we've got a racetrack and everything. So you right click, making sure in your external folder, right click and go to new material. It opens this box here, and this is going to be my map. So we go technical, and everything opens on the other screen. So this is my material editor, okay, and it's created my map material as an asset now in my external folder, okay. So what I'm looking at doing now is I need to go to the UDK game, because I'm going to use assets out of here. I'm going to look for some materials, some textures, and use them to create a material that we can paint onto the map. So let's have a look for some grass. Okay, so just tap grass in the search bar, and I will find a texture. Scroll down here. There we go. That's a nice one. I like that one. No, hey, let's go for that one as well. What I'm doing is, it's, you know, if I left click on this area here, it will just drag things around. With that highlighted in yellow, you can see that one's highlighted opposed to that one. Hold the left control key down and you can drag this around as well, just to keep things sort of organised. Go back into here. I'm looking for some mud. I don't think we can get mud. Dirty mud. Dirt. And we want something that'll work as a track. That's wet mud there. Yeah, let's have some wet mud. I like that. And finally, let's have rock. And okay. Something. We're in a wet mud, so we want something not quite so deserty. Yeah, it's not right, but it's as an example it'll do. Right, so I've got my four textures there I've got, and I need to give them a terrain coordinate. This is going to be the scale of this texture, and what I mean by that is how. Well, let's demonstrate it, shall we? So to plug this in to sort of preview it, we're going to need also to create a terrain layer weight. This will plug into there, and that will plug into diffuse. If you can actually get the mouse button on it, come on, like that. You can see there's nothing there, just a black object on my wireframe floor. That's because I've not given it a weight. Let's give that a 5, and there you go. You can see the grass is now attached to there. You can see a preview of it there. I'm just going to call this grass as well, otherwise well, we'll have to refer back to it later. So let's just go back to our coordinates here. If I let's play about with these. Let's give this a 4.5. Okay, you can see the pixels have grown. They've gotten a lot larger. Now this may be a good thing, because our map is going to be sort of stretched out, but it could also be a bad thing. You really have to mess about with it depending on your own scale. But what you have to be careful of is if you have it too small, you end up with a very quite a repetitive pattern in your textures, and they just don't look right. So I'll just quickly speed through this, and I'll do Control V, Control C, Control V, and paste this down a few times. If you're following along, you might want to just scrub through this and just, you know, just do your own. I am picking different different mapping scales because I don't want them all to have the same mapping scale. Same here. Oops. So to connect these up here, they're not all going to go to the fuse. What they're going to do is that goes to layer, and that one comes up to base, like that. It's actually showing it. We're going to give it, rename it. This is grass 2, isn't it? Let's do that with this one. Base. This was dirt. That'll be my track later on, and this one rock. There we go. So that's all the textures mixed together, which is nice, but that's not going to be the finished result. Let's click this tick button, apply changes to original material, and use it in the world. So top left hand corner, click that tick there. It will save that now in your concept browser. See, I've got textures ticked there. I'm going to untick that, and I've got a rock written up there. I'm going to clear that with that X button there, and it gives me back sort of my external folder there. And you can see my map material now has this texture on top of it. So I'm finished with the map editor, the material editor for now. I might want to come back and fiddle with it later. I can always change these coordinates and the scaling, and it will update. So let's go back into lit mode, and we're going to have to play around again with the landscape mode. But before we do that, we're going to right click on right click on your landscape and go to landscape properties here. The landscape material is going to be the map material here. So oops, click on that, click on this green arrow button here, use selected object in content browser. It takes a few seconds, and then that will change like that. So we've got no lighting on it, it's just changed to a dark shade of grey. I'm going to now tell my landscape mode what, well, I'm going to set it up with some paintbrushes. So if you scroll down to where it says height map here, so it's your target layer, click on the edit button, and in add new layer, I'm going to add in grass. Click on the plus, and there's the grass. We'll go grass 2. My second grass. Let's go for dirt, and it's only going to add the things that we've named in the materials for our map material. And rock, I don't think, yeah, that's fine, it's not case sensitive. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that I've got this noise selected. I don't want that because that will just change that. I'm going to make sure I've got the paint, I'm on the paint tool there. Click on grass, and then holding the left control key down, left mouse button. There you go. I'm going to select grass 2, holding the left control key down, right mouse button, sorry, left mouse button, like so. How do I mix this up? There you go, let's just do some of that. A bit of scribbling. Right, I'm going to leave the dirt till last, but let's add this rock. Left control. There you go. Here we are, all the way around the other side, just to give the impression that we have some rocky mountains. And let's go back to the grass. We're just going to tidy it up around the kind of the edges. blend some of this in. And that's a nice thing, you know, it just blends in the different textures. Yep. Let's do that. I think like the darker grass around the outside. The brush is too thick. Right, so I am going to change the size of my brush before I start drawing the road. So tool strength's fine. Brush size, bring that right down. You can see that my brush now is a little bit smaller. I'm going to bring down the fall off as well, because I am going to draw the road and I don't really want it to blend too much. So let's go with a starting point here, because so this is going to be my start, and I'm just going to left control, add a little bit to the strength, and I'm just going to draw what is effectively my track for my car to go around. Increase the strength a little bit more. That corner is going to be properly sort of so, isn't it? It's going to be add a little curve in there. Go. And there's my track. Okay, I'm going to save that, make sure I don't lose it. And there we go. Let's have a look at the final result. We click the play button. This map is using externally referenced packages which won't be found in a game, and all references will be broken. Perform a map check before. For more details, would you like to continue? Yes. And we are using external references. Okay. And I think my track needs smoothing a bit. Our car's going to bounce off these ridges all the way. In fact, that's what we need to test next, isn't it? Okay, so we'll do that next. Let's close the landscape editor. I've closed that, press escape, just come back out of there. Alright, so I'm gonna just go, no, we're gonna test it, aren't we? So I'm gonna go to my content browser again, and I'm gonna go to actor classes at the top here, and in here expand vehicles, select on the UT Vehicle Factory Scorpion and drop that on the road there. He's facing the wrong way, isn't he? That's naughty. Rotate him, space bar to give me rotation mode. Do 90 degrees or 180 degrees. It needs to be sort of almost precise there, like if, and when we add the camera later, it needs to be sort of lined up to 180 degrees. Or just leave it where it is, really. If I press play now, it's quite loud, really. That's not too bad. Yeah, so you can see the vehicle that we've used there. It's already sort of it's already been sort of built for us. Can I explain this? You can see that's the wireframe for it, so it's actually just a model that's been imported. And then you can't see the rigging that's going on in here, but there is a rig inside the car which connects the wheels to some colliders, which also is part of the animation, but it allows for the physical contact between this mesh and the floor, the the ground, the landscape mesh. What I'm sort of alluding to here, things that have been added are, your WASD controls for moving left and right. The physics of the vehicle have been calculated by the engine. So if you were building your own engine, you'd have to build that into it. What else? The camera control. There's a lot of things going on with that vehicle, which would take would take a long time to code in. But the beauty of it is I can build then another model, and a lot of the features that I've built for that model will apply to that model, and I'll be able to sort of apply the same control scheme. The physics will all be sort of match up. So that's how engines work. They give you a set of predefined rules, and you build the objects. We can toy. We can we can change the weight of the car, the center of mass. It's it's sort of the gravitational effects and things like that, which will make your game feel unique. Will always make your game feel unique inside an engine that's been built for a different game. So game engines are a great way of getting into games development. So yeah, just off track there. So let's go back into development mode. Where were we? So I've got the car in here. I'm quite happy with the track. I'm not going to adjust it. I can do, I can go, back into I can go into landscape mode if I want. I want to change the height map again. If I wanted to add let's go make sure the paintbrush is added, and then we can you can see I can add a little mountain in the middle there, maybe a little jump or a little. The problem with doing that is you end up with this ugly sort of thing here. I've got to do some erosion on it. Hydraulic erosion would look nice. If I can get this paintbrush smaller again, and gives us a nice sort of ramper effect, and then smooth it. That one. Smooth it down so you've got too many jaggies, because jaggies aren't good. Okay. And there it is. Okay, so you got your nice little even though after we painted it, we can still change the actual the hills and the height maps. Have you ever played Populous before? That always reminds me of that. A nice god game. So let's close that one. Next thing that I'm going to do is I'm just going to add a start line here. Do I need to start? I don't really need to do this, but I'm going to throw it in. Anyway, so I'm going to take my brush from over here, bring him in, so see them here, and this is where the other views come in handy. No, don't move that. So you can see my cars are there. On the floor there. Here's my paintbrush. Let's bring this down. Let's keep it central. In front of my car. I'm going to change it using, so I've got rotation, I've got scaling mode. I've also got this little button here called non-uniform scaling mode. And it changes the little handles on each side of the brush to a different colour, and it means when I scale it, it doesn't scale it in all axes at the same time. Okay, so that is going to be sort of a trigger, or sorry, this is going to be a start line, not a trigger. I'm thinking of something else. So I'm going to create this little let's make it a bit thinner. A starting point here. This is like your start and finish point, although here. And then I'm going to paint. I'm going to do my additive brush there. CSG add. Control and A, and it's taking the grass texture. Of course it has. We can change that. We can go to content browser, and what would that be? Say metal. Let's go to UDK game. And we want a material. I think this is going to look ugly. Let's try it anyway. Yeah, it's horrible. Yeah, and these aren't real. That'll be better. There, that'll do. So it's not actually materials I want, it's material instances. Oops. Gotta do all the sides. Okay. So now I've got a wall, and what I'm going to do with that wall is I'm going to cut a hole through it. So right click cylinder, I'm going to go too many here. No, I'll be fine, I'll be fine. So I've changed it to 32 sides. Close that. I'm going to rotate it on the green by 90 degrees. I'm going to make it uniformly smaller so it fits inside like that. Bring it down, and it's important that it's actually central. It's actually cutting a hole through this block, so you can see if I just rotate around here, it's actually, yeah, so it's actually colliding with the other box. Oops. You do have to get used to using the left and right mouse buttons to, or both mouse buttons together will go up and down, pan right and left. Can be quite a fiddle. So next thing we're going to do is with this cut out, well, we're going to cut it out, so we're going to go CSG subtract Control and S. And there's my hole. Okay. Let's move my brush out of the way, don't need it anymore. I'm going to go make it a square brush again. And it's actually painted the inside for me. Is that nice? Isn't that nice? Oh, that's very nice. Oh, that's very good. So it looks like I've got a structure now in my world as well. It's almost like a full AAA title. Bad jokes. I can actually play with this again. I can move things around, and I could rebuild it. Like I showed you earlier, we could build the geometry for visible levels. So if I didn't like the actual position of that, I have to find it first. There. So if I select it there, and I just wanted to move it because it's slightly off. I don't know if you can see this. It's not perfect. I'm doing this by hand, so I'm not going to get it perfect, but with that moved, if I just rebuild the geometry, you can see the whole moves slightly to the left as well. Okay, so that stays invisible. Okay, so now we're going to have to start actually building some of the game parts of our game. We've got our world sort of in a semi-complete form. We just want to start adding sort of checkpoints into the game and a timer. Okay, so we'll start with fixing the camera to the player. Can I just reduce volume here? Playback mixer. Volume mixer. UDK is very low already. It's just very loud. There you go. It's a bit quieter now. Okay, so you can see my camera is following my mouse where I look in the game. I can also, when we start, we actually started outside of the car. What I want to be doing is, as I click the play button in the game, I want to be spawning inside the car, and I want to fix the camera to the back so I can't move around with my mouse and look around. So the first thing we need is a camera. So open your content browser and go to Actor Classes, and it's up here, look, under Common, Camera Actor, drag and drop it into your level, reposition it. It's going to need to swivel 90 degrees, and where we position it is where it will sort of live. So 180 degrees there, and it's looking like it's fairly decently positioned behind it. I could say, I've done this, so you can sit it inside the vehicle there and get a nice first person view if that's what you want to do. Let's just tilt it down towards the car slightly, and if I right click it and snap view to actor, that is the viewport. That is what the player will see. I can come back out and move it. I think I might keep it a bit further out, like so. Snap view to actor. There we go. Okay. So I've got a camera, and I want to fix my player. I want my player to go in the car, and I want my camera to follow, because even though I've got a camera there, you don't see in the game. It's not doing anything. So let's introduce the Kismet. So this little K at the top here, Open Unreal Kismet, is basically a visual scripting language that we can use to write some of the game logic. So everything in here will basically represent something in the game. For example, if I select the camera, I can right click it. And if you know what a variable is, this one here is a new object variable using camera actor 0. So that variable there represents that camera there. Its location, its space, any property of that camera is stored in that variable, and we can reference and we can find out what that variable is doing, or what that camera is doing in space, where it is, or what it's looking at, where it's attached to, that sort of stuff. So the other thing we're going to need is a copy. We'll need a variable for the car. So open new that. Right click, new object variable using UT vehicle factory Scorpion 0. There. So we've got a variable for those two things there. And the thing we're going to do is when we start the game, I want the player to start spawning the car. At the moment, the player spawns over on that. Where is he gone actually? I bet I've hidden him under there now because he was right in the middle. I press this play button again. I'll open on the other screen. Oh no, actually it started me over here. Where's my car? Yeah, right on the other side of the map. I have to walk all the way over to the other side of the map to get into my car. By which time I've lost the race. So that is because, do I see it here? Yes. Looks like my light. It's my joystick. There he is. Bad side is colliding with the floor there. I'm just going to bring it up. If I bring it up slightly, it will fix it. Yeah, there you go. So I'm going to need again a variable for that. I need to know, first of all, I know when I press the play button that the player spawns at this point here, and so we're going to tell it. We're going to tell our game that once it's spawned here, to immediately transport them over there to the car. So I need an object variable. I need a variable to tell me where that is, or who that is, what that is. So a new object variable using player start 0. I got that because this is highlighted. Anything I've got highlighted becomes it gets populated in that menu there. Okay, so new object variable using player start 0. And then let's do some code here. So right click, new event, level, player, new event player spawned. Okay, and the spawn point for that player. So it's the player that spawns at that spawn point there, is going to jump into a vehicle. So a new action. It's not. It's pawn enter vehicle. Okay, and I'm going to drag this to the end here. So as soon as the player spawns at this spawn point, automatically enter a vehicle. What are we going to enter the vehicle? Not the camera. I'm going to enter this vehicle here because that's the vehicle over there. And we need to tell it that the player 0 is the target for this. So new variable player. Okay, and we drag and drop that onto there. Now this player it's basically set up for all players in the game, so it's going to try and spawn every player into that vehicle. We only want player 0 to go into that vehicle, which will be you. I think that's something to do with multiplayer. I'll come back to that. I'm sure I'll be able to play around with that. So we can test that. If we can quickly test that, it should now, when I press play, automatically start in the vehicle. Very good. Okay, so that's working. Right. Now what we want to do is attach. We want to stop the mouse from controlling the camera, and we want to attach this camera here to that vehicle, and then make sure that that will show you some crazy antics here. Let's have a look. Right click, new action, new event level loaded. Okay, so this is an event when we press the play button and all of the scenery loads, that will trigger this sort of event. or we're telling the Kismet, the script, to listen out for that event to have finished. So when it's loaded and visible, we want it to right click, new action, add actor, attach to actor. No, we want it to, we want the camera, don't we? With camera to look at the player. Yeah, so we're going to go new action, camera, set camera target, like that. We drag that onto there. The camera target is this camera. No, it's not. The target. This camera is the target. Break all links. No, actually that's right. The camera target is that camera, and then the target is player 0. So new variable player. I could just reuse this player 0 up here, but there's nothing wrong with me just adding that another reference to it there. Okay, and now when I click play, I still have that problem when I set camera target. It's hasn't actually given me. It's been overridden by the other camera. So what we're going to do is come down here, go right click, new action, actor, attach to actor, and when the level is loaded and visible, we are going to take the if I got this the right way around, target camera, let's cheat here. No, I can't cheat because it's not detailed. Let's have a play about with it. If it breaks, it breaks. Attach the camera's going to be my target. Well, the camera is going to be an attachment, so there, and the target is actually the player, not that one there. I think I've got that one wrong. Yes. Let's break all links to that. The target for the camera is going to be the vehicle, isn't it? No, it's not. This won't work anyway. Yeah, it doesn't like that. Doesn't like that at all, does it? Let's move that out. And what I haven't done now, set the max trigger count here to 0, so it's an unlimited trigger count. Yeah. So why wasn't it doing that? What I was trying to show you is if I don't set the camera target, or if I don't attach it, I thought if I don't attach it to the actor, basically camera stays still. Break that link. And I was expecting the camera. There you go. That's what I was expecting. It's for the car to just drive off into the distance, into the sunset. Goodbye, little car. Yeah. I think it's something to do with that max trigger count. You've got to make sure that the max trigger count is set to 0. So we didn't need that. Okay. Should I do that again? so this first part of the code is complete. We've got the camera following the player. The player spawns in the vehicle. I've hit the Control and Alt to draw a box around all that gives me there, and if I type C, it will ask me to put in a new comment. Here we go. And just keeps that tidy away there, so we don't have, if we need to know where that code is when we've got lots of code on the screen, we can find it again. Lost it already. Alright. So that kind of wraps that bit up. So camera follows the car. I can't move left and right with my mouse. Its camera is being controlled by the WASD keys of my keyboard. I'm already rubbish at this game. Yeah, we're good. Alright, now to the coding part. We're going to set up a sequence of trigger points or checkpoints around our track that the player will have to trigger for him to complete the track. This is going to be done with something called a path node. So if I right click in just in between the starting line or where your starting line is here, and add an actor a path node like this, you'll see this little peach or apple or fruit on the ground there. This basically is an invisible sort of point in space, a reference point that we can refer to in Kismet, and it's going to be the point where I spawn the trigger box or the flags, so you know where the next checkpoint is. So I'm going to add several of these across the length of the course. So Control C, Control V, and I drag that one. That was actually one. That's there. You can see there. If I select that one, that's path node 1 there. Let's move this one to here. Obviously, I might have to bring these up because my floor is not even. Control C, Control V. Okay, that's still path node 1, so I need path node 2. Try and keep them in order. It doesn't matter too much if they're not in order. It's just going to be a lot. It just makes sense to keep them in order, I guess. So you kind of position these where you want this. What is your trigger box? We'll be looking at in a minute. Okay, so Control V here. I knew that would do that. I knew I did it anyway. There's number 3. He's going to go there. Control C, Control V. Why doesn't it give me that one by default? There's 4. Should just do it backwards, shouldn't I? He's broken. Let's fix him. Control Z, Control V. Control C. Okay, and then the last one would be back there again. Okay, so right, so I've got my path nodes across the outside of the track, and I need to bring my brush back in. Okay, and what we're going to do is add a trigger volume that will act as basically it will detect when the car makes contact. So when the car actually passes through the volume, it will trigger to tell the game that we've passed that checkpoint and we're now on to the next checkpoint. So I'm going to create this so it's big enough for the car to fit through. Just let's make it a bit bigger like that, and I'll make it non-uniform transform and just stretch it out a little bit there. I'm going to do it the other way as well because I'm going to cheat here. I'm not going to rotate it as we go around the track. I'm just going to leave it sort of like that. Okay. And what's going to happen is that it will just be the location of the trigger box. It's massive, that trigger box. You can't miss it, can you? So yeah, let's just add that. So I'll add the volume here. So on the left-hand menu here where it says volumes, you're looking for add volume, click for options, and then we want a dynamic trigger volume. Dynamic will move around our level with us, which is what we want this one to do. Let's move that out of the way. Change it safe again so I don't lose it. Don't forget what it is. Okay, that's a little bit low, that isn't it? You know. It's a bit uneven as well. It's fine. It's fine there now. Okay, so that trigger volume will stay there. I'm going to add something, a visual reference, because if you look at the game itself, you can't see the trigger volume. So I won't know where the next checkpoint is. So I'm going to add a flag which will move along with this. I could add them in, by hand, but let's cheat. Let's add them in with Kismet. Let's script them into the game. So let's get in content browser. So open your content browser, go into the UDK game, untick that material instances. Let's get rid of metal from that list there. I'm going to look for flag. Keyboard is knackered. And it's, why am I looking there? It's a skeletal mesh. Yes, it is. So we take the skeletal mesh and then drag and drop that one in there, and there you go. Yes, it's looking good. I'm not going to worry about its position right now because everything will relocate onto that location there as they move around the map. Actually, that one looks like it needs to go there. So we are back into Kismet. So volumes in, flags in, your path nodes are in, and we are going back to Kismet to start playing with these in here. Okay. It's strange that that's not working properly. Right, so the first thing that's going to happen is that when our car drives into this space here, the dynamic trigger volume, we want to tell it that that the game is started, and then to move the flag and the trigger volume over to the next checkpoint, and then just to go to each checkpoint, so, you know, in a sequence until we've done a lap, and then repeat. So let's start off with that basic sort of concept. So I'm going to go right click. I'm going to need this trigger volume selected. Right click and zoom in a bit. This is new object new event. Rather than bringing in the trigger box as a variable and finding out what's happening to the trigger box, we're going to say that there's we're going to listen out for an event that happens, and we've got two events that can happen to a trigger box: a take damage or a touch. And we're going to come into touch with it. So let's use that one. So I am going to check. I'm going to need some way of counting which checkpoint we're on, and then keep track of which checkpoint I've been to, and so on. So I'm going to need a variable to do that. So I'm going to create some variables. These are in here, new variable, and I'm going to have 4 main variables. Well, the two to check where I am in the course. Check where my flag needs to go next. So these are going to be numerical things. I'm just going to add 1 to like a checkpoint count, for example. So if I just add an integer, this is checkpoint. So it's just an integer, a number between 1 and something like 32,000. I think it's more than that, isn't it? But I can't remember off the top of my head. Which I know people are probably screaming at me now for that. This is I'm going to name this variable, so I know which variable. At the moment it's just a 0 in a circle. So I need to know what it is, where it is, what it is, and how to reference it. So let's call this CP count. That's what I'm using. Let's go with the underscore count, like so. Okay, so CP count is currently the value of 0. We also want to know how many checkpoints I've got. How many checkpoints do I have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 8. So I'm going to add a new variable, integer, and this one I'm going to call CP amount. Yes. So I know that we have got 8 checkpoints. Okay, and if I added checkpoints later, I would have to change that. There are other ways of doing this. It's just the way I've opted to do it, because it was difficult. It can be quite complex. Well, it wouldn't be, but there may be sort of. I haven't done it the other way. Is what that is. I guess what I'm trying to say is I haven't added all of these checkpoints to a list and then counted them and referenced it back that way. That would probably the best way to do it, but I'm cheating, hard coding again. I get my wrist slapped for doing that. So when my trigger box has been touched, I am going to right click here. I'm going to do maths, isn't it? I'm going to compare. No, I'm going to go new condition, comparison, compare integers. Okay, so we've got 2 integers here. Let's drag that to there. Because I've created those 2 variables, when I go on new variables here now and named variables and persistent level, you can see they actually appear in this drop down list. So CP count, right click, new variable, and persistent level, CP amount. Let's tidy it up, and I'm going to check the checkpoint count is not greater than the number of checkpoints, because if it is greater than them, I've gone past that checkpoint. okay, and I need to reset the checkpoint count to 1 or 0. Then, so if it's not though, so while it's not greater than while it is sort of less than 8, then I want to move it to the next one in the list, don't I? The next path node. Okay. To reference these path nodes, we've got to create something called an array. In UDK on Kismet, it's called an object list, but it's still an array. So I'm going to create this array up here. New variable object list. Okay. I need a reference to one of my path nodes. Let's just right click add that. Have I got it selected there? It is. New path node there. I'm just gonna with that clicked there, I can see the actual text way of referencing that in its actual name is path node dash time attack the world persistent level dot path node 0. Okay, and I am going to reference that as the first thing in my list of objects. Here, sorry about the noise in the background. So I add this and right click, paste. Okay, so all I did there is add a new item, paste it there. And I'm going to do this about 8, haven't I? So I'm going to paste it in for all 8. And all I'm going to do is change the number, because that's all that changes in the name. Okay, so that one's 0, this one will be 1. This one will be 2. This one will be 3. 4. 5. 6. 7. And 8. Oh, I've crashed. And because I've crashed, I've lost everything I've done in Kismet because I've not saved it since. And the UDK does a good job of not recovering anything. Oh well, I get to do it all again. Yay. Unbelievable. So I'll just quickly zip through this again, shall I? Alright, so grab my brush. With the brush, what I'm going to do is create a static sort of starting point using the brush. So we need to change the size and the shape of the brush using non-uniform transform. Make it taller, make it a bit thinner. Okay. And then we're going to take some textures from our content browser. Look at material. Metal. So it's a material instance I want, isn't it? There. Okay, and then we're going to paint it using CSG add. There we go. Let's drop the material on it. Yes. Okay. We want the brush back. This time we want it cylindrical. Right click and let's add some corners. And rotate. Scale it down. Change. Make sure it's in the middle. And it passes all the way through. CSG subtract like that. Okay, finish with that, move it out of the way. We're going to add some actor classes. Okay, this is our vehicle here. Go to UT vehicle factory, drop that in there. I'm going to rotate it 180 degrees. A bit of a fiddle. Let's be 180. Like that. Okay. And we also want, while we're here, the camera actor. Bring that in. Bring it up. Rotate it 180 degrees. Rotate it so it's pointing on it, at the vehicle, and then we're happy with its general location, which I'm not and snap view to actor like that, and that's where my camera's going to be. Okay, so not gonna actually follow the camera yet. The camera won't do anything at the moment. We're going to have to go into Kismet in here. We had a reference for the camera by right clicking new object variable using camera 0. So the car, right click new object variable using UT vehicle factory Scorpion 0. And what we're going to do, we need to know where our player start is, this thing here. I'm going to right click here and new object variable using player start 0. Right click new event and player spawned. Attach player spawned to the player spawn point, not the player start. We need a new action. This is actor enter vehicle, isn't it? So it spawn enter vehicle there. Okay, so when the player spawns at the player start, it's going to enter a. Oh, it's not that, is it? So it's going to enter the vehicle. We need a reference to the player, so new variable player. Okay, and this is for all players. We actually just want it for our player, so player 0, and tick in the property there, all players. And now press play. Yes, we got some externally referenced packages because we are working. I've broken external package. So let's just check what I did there. What have I done? Player spawns at that point there, and you know why he's doing that? It's because he's underground. Let's try again. So loud, so loud. Volume controls. It seems to cheeky. Right. I think it's still underground. Oh no, that's done what it's there. That's what it's done. Yeah, rather than spawning where I am, it's actually spawning in the car. That's fine. Did the volume come right down then? So he's spawning in the car now. Okay. Yeah, of course. So we want to now set the target for our camera. So new event, level loaded. So when the level loads, when everything is loaded into memory, all the maps, all the textures, all the vehicles, everything, all the locations of everything, our level is loaded and visible. We are going to attach, so new action, actor, attach to actor. We're going to attach the camera to the player target. The attachment is the camera, and the target is our player variable player. Okay, player 0. We're also going to action camera, set the camera target. Okay, this is so we can't move the camera with our mouse. We're going to set the target of set camera. Do I need to add that again? I do, don't I? Right click, new object variable using camera. The target is the player. New variable player. You drag and drop that and drag that, and then so both of these events are triggered at the start of the level, and so because this is only set to trigger once, we remove it, we set it to 0. That sets it to trigger an infinite amount of times, or how many times we link it up, in this case 2. So now I'm going to press play. Very good. Following that, if I let's just break that link there. There goes the car. Great stuff. Good stuff. Okay. So that's what's going on there. And what I'm going to do is Control Alt and drag over those with a box and press C. No, I did press it. Doesn't seem to have done anything. Try it again. Highlight everything and C. Give me a comment. Attach. Oh, I'll put capitals in, shall I? Attach camera and spawning vehicle. That's what's going on with that bit of code there. And now we can move on to, actually, before we do anything else, can I advise a quick save point there? Yes, it's a very good idea. Yeah, I don't want to have to redo this all again if it crashes. so saving regularly. Okay, right click in your level now, because we're going to add the next part of the game, mechanics really. We want the car to go around the track 3 times, but we're going to have to reposition sort of a flag, a checkpoint, to make sure that the player is going around the track and not just going around the start line 3 times. That would be cheating. So right click and go to add actor, and we're going to add a path node, and this path node is going to be positioned in our level as a point of reference for the checkpoint. Yes, I'm not looking for that view. I'm looking for that one. Just want to side on, make sure that goes in the middle of the checkpoint of the start line there. Right. So what I'm going to do is get a better vantage point here and start copying and pasting. So I've actually got path node 0 sort of selected there, and I've moved it there. If I do that again, I've still got path node 0 there. This is all back to front. So there's gosh. Yeah, so that one's path node 1. This one in the middle that I've just created. Did I create it? Oh, it's underneath. Yeah. So you gotta be careful when you create them. They don't go underneath the level. And that one is path node 2. So 1, 2, this will be 3. It's not too big an issue that, you know, we're not starting at 0, but just as long as you put them in the list in the right order. Somebody probably tell me that's wrong, but let's just go with it. So Control C, Control V. I just find it easier to deal with it this way. And Control C, Control V. So I'm just putting them sporadically. If I've got, you know, this bend in the course and I want the player to skip the bend, I want them to make sure they go through a little. And I don't want them too close together either, because I can explain that in a second. Bring that one up here. Yep, it's fine. Too high. Get it quite central into the road, and then Control C, Control V.